Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're looking at Zappos, the online retailer that really shook things up, especially with customer service.
That's right. They didn't just sell shoes, they sold service. It was their whole brand identity, built right from the ground up.
And our sources really dig into how they did that, but also, the challenges that came later. It's quite a journey.
Definitely. So if you're looking to get up to speed quickly but thoroughly, this is the place.
Okay, so let's start with that foundation. How did Zappos make service the absolute core?
Well, fundamentally, it wasn't seen as just a cost center,
Yeah.
It was the product almost.
Right.
They empower their customer service reps, their their call center folks in ways that were pretty radical at the time, still are, maybe.
Empowered how? Exactly. We're not just talking standard politeness, are we?
No, no, much more than that. The sources highlight how reps were actively encouraged to ditch the scripts.
Mm-hmm.
Forget the average call time metrics.
Okay.
The goal was a real connection, understanding the customer, solving their problem, even if it took, well, ages.
Yeah, I saw that Fast Fact 1 call lasted over 10 hours.
10 hours and 43 minutes, yeah.
Yeah.
An extreme example, sure, but it shows the commitment, right? It wasn't about efficiency in that moment. It was about the customer experience.
And this all stemmed from Tony Tsai's philosophy.
Directly. He was convinced, absolutely convinced, that a vibrant internal culture, happy employees, would naturally lead to amazing customer experiences. It wasn't just lip service.
So how did they build that culture?
A big part was the training, an intensive 4-week program. It wasn't just about how to use the systems. It was about immersing people in the Zappos values, the service mindset.
And then there was that famous offer.
Ah, yes, the offer. After the initial training, they'd offer new hires. Was it $2,000?
I think it grew over time, but yeah, basically offering them money to quit.
Exactly. If you didn't feel you were a fit for the culture, if the mission didn't resonate, they preferred you take the money and leave.
That's bold. It really underlines how serious they were about getting that cultural fit just right.
Absolutely. It sent a clear message. And this wasn't just for the customer-facing roles. It permeated the whole company, hiring, warehouse operations, everything.
And it worked, didn't it? At least initially. The brand loyalty, the buzz.
Oh, yeah. In the early days, it was incredibly successful. Customers felt that difference, and they talked about it. Huge word-of-mouth marketing.
But then growth happened, and scaling that kind of high-touch model must have been, well, difficult.
Extremely. Think about what that model entails. Free shipping, free returns, those surprise upgrades they sometimes did, the unscripted long calls.
It all adds up.
Right. It requires significant resources. People, time, money. As they got bigger, the sheer volume, the logistics, it became much more complex.
And finding the right people, too. You need thousands who can handle the tech side and have that genuine empathy, that emotional connection ability.
That's a really tough hiring challenge at scale. It's not just training people on a script.
Especially when your competitors are maybe leaning more towards automation, chatbots, trying to cut those service costs.
Precisely. Zappos was investing heavily in the human element, while others were looking for technological efficiencies. Which leads us to an interesting chapter, holacracy.
Ah, yes, 2013. They decided to get rid of traditional managers and job titles.
That was the idea. Adopt holacracy, this sort of self-management system. The goal was, laudable empowered teams, make things more agile, spark innovation from anywhere.
Sounds good on paper, maybe.
Well, the sources suggest the reality was messy. A lot of confusion among employees about roles and responsibilities. Decision-making actually seemed to slow down in some cases.
Really? How so?
Without clear hierarchies, accountability could get fuzzy. Communication became more challenging. Who makes the final call? How do things get pushed through?
And the timing wasn't ideal, was it?
Probably not. They were going through this massive internal restructuring, this fundamental shift in how they operated, right when they're also trying to manage significant growth and increasing competition.
So operational efficiency might have taken a hit just when they needed it most.
It seems that way. It might have diverted focus and energy away from adapting to the market.
Then came the Amazon acquisition. How did that fit into the picture?
Initially, it was seen as a win-win. Zappos got the backing of a giant, Amazon got this beloved brand known for service, and crucially, Tsai negotiated for Zappos to keep its operational independence.
Especially around culture, hiring, customer service.
Exactly. Those core elements were meant to be protected. So for a while, Zappos kind of operated as its own entity within the larger Amazon machine.
Kept growing that loyal customer base.
Yes, they did. But over time, there was, according to the sources, a kind of gentle push towards integrating more of the back-end stuff.
Like logistics, inventory, HR systems, things where Amazon has its own very efficient way of doing things.
Right. And while that integration might make sense from a pure efficiency standpoint, it also maybe created some friction with the Zappos way.
And meanwhile, the market kept changing. Competitors getting faster, more automated.
Yeah. Zappos, still focused on that high-touch human service, maybe struggled to innovate on the tech and automation front at the same pace. The cost of their model compared to others became more stark.
Which brings us to the period after Tony Tsai's departure and, sadly, his passing in 2020, a real turning point.
A huge turning point. The company faced a fundamental question. Do we double down on the legendary service model, the thing that made us famous, or do we pivot?
Pivot towards more efficiency, maybe more alignment with the broader Amazon approach.
Exactly. That tension between the unique Zappos culture and the commercial realities, the need for efficiency and scale, it became very apparent.
So looking back at this whole journey, what are the big takeaways for you, for the listener?
Well, first, Zappos proved pretty definitively that customer service can be a powerful brand differentiator, not just a necessary evil, but a core asset.
Okay. And the culture link.
Absolutely crucial. Investing in employee happiness, building that strong internal culture they showed, it translates directly to customer loyalty and growth. For a long time, they were the benchmark.
The gold standard, yeah.
But, and this is a big but, the story also highlights the challenges. Sustaining that super high-touch, human-intensive model gets harder and harder in a market driving towards automation and lower costs.
So passion and values are vital, but they need what? Scalable systems.
Scalable systems, agility, cost discipline, operational clarity. You need both the heart and a really robust operational structure, especially as you grow.
And the culture itself needs to evolve. It can't just stay the same as the company scales tenfold.
That seems to be a key lesson. What works for a startup might actually hinder a larger organization. The holacracy experiment, whatever its intentions, shows the risk of major internal changes if they aren't clearly tied to business outcomes and maybe managed very carefully.
It disrupts things.
It can, yeah. So now Zappos is still figuring out its path, redefining itself within Amazon and the market.
But the potential is still there. Customer service can still be a weapon.
I think so, yes. But it needs to be supported differently, perhaps. It needs systems that are sustainable and scalable for the long haul, not just relying on, well, heroic individual efforts constantly.
Right. So, wrapping up our deep dive on Zappos, we've seen the incredible power of a customer-first approach, the real complexities of scaling culture, and how market pressures and big strategic choices shape a company's destiny.
It really is a rich story, with lessons for almost any business trying to balance its core values with the demands of growth and the market.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener. Considering all the trade-offs Zappos faced as it grew, what do you think is the single most critical thing a company needs to prioritize as it scales its own unique approach? Culture, efficiency, innovation, something else entirely.
It's a tough question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something definitely worth thinking about for anyone building or leading a business today.